So today we're going to be joined by Jack Devereaux and Phong Nguyen, a very unique partnership. And to start, I want to do something a little bit different. Jack, would you introduce Phong and just tell us a little about who he is? Just take a little bit. And then Phong, I would love for you to return and introduce Jack for us.
This is my partner, Phong Nguyen, best partner a man could ever have in business. Phong is smart as hell. He's reliable and he's loyal. And there's not a path I wouldn't go down with him by my side, because he wouldn't let me go down a stupid path. And so I love this man, and he's a great partner. We're not the same, but we complement each other really, really well. And I've never trusted anybody the way I trust Phong.
This is my partner, Jack Devereaux. He's a number one leader. He's kind, he's humble. He gives everybody else the credit. He's a partner leader anybody will wish they had. I'm truly blessed to have him in my life. After my heart attack, when I opened my eyes and I was on the hospital, I saw him and it made me feel so much better. Super kind, super generous, and I love him to death.
Wow. You guys are known for your unique partnership and all that you've accomplished together, and how you view things similarly, how you view things dissimilarly, and how you arrive to solve problems. It's a beautiful thing. I'm really excited today to dive into how you work together, your experience inside of orthodontics, and the impact that you're making on so many people.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Scott, for your kind words.
Awesome. So you guys have a very unique partnership. Lots of experience in orthodontics. Jack, I know you were one of the first way back in the day with OCA, and so you're no stranger to quote unquote corporate dentistry. And so I'd love to start there, kind of back up and tell us a little bit about how did you arrive to orthodontics in the first place? Kind of your backgrounds in dentistry to orthodontics.
Well, I actually practiced general dentistry for a year before I went back to ortho school. And because my wife was a dental student a year behind me. So I stayed back in New Orleans and practiced general dentistry. And then the next year when she graduated, we moved to Chapel Hill and I went to ortho residency there. Got out and bought into a very busy private practice, as well as started my own practice at the same time. I was an associate doctor and had my own office, and he had two offices and I had an office that we shared together, and one that was near his other office. And he had a very catastrophic health issue, and I ended up purchasing his offices because he had to retire. And so I was in a very busy office all by myself, 1 year out of a program that was more of a research-oriented program and not a practice-oriented program. So I had baptism by fire going into we were seeing over 100 people a day back in the 80s, which was unbelievable because mechanics weren't that good. And it me to develop systems. Like we started using NiTi wires when nobody else was doing that. We started using I stopped banding. I did all bracketing. I went from 4-week intervals because of payment plans to 6 and 8 week intervals that we built, and we computerized. We were like in the first 50 people with OrthoTrack back then. And so, because the systems wouldn't support what I was trying to do. And the mid-90s came along, and there was a company called OCA, which was one of the first orthodontic DSOs. I don't even know if they called them DSOs back then. But it was a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ, and I affiliated with them because I had gotten to the point where the harder I worked, I just worked more hours but didn't make any more money because my systems did not support productive, profitable growth over a certain amount. And I was convinced in my conversations with OCA that their technology and their expertise and their people could help me grow my practice larger and be more profitable and me work less, which, by the way, is the exact same reason why Phong and I affiliated with Smile Doctors, because we grew our practice to a point where we were having to invest almost everything we had accomplished to try to get our practice to the next level, where if we partnered with a larger group that had that skill set and experience on board already, we felt we could continue concentrating on the part of orthodontics we loved, while the part that was just bogging us down would be handled with good systems and good people.
I think along those lines, we hear a lot from people who are kind of naysayers about the OSO model. And that's the part I think they miss. I think people who just want to stay flat, stay the exact same, not change anything, OSOs are not for them. But I think, to your point, those that want to grow, want to change, want additional resources, see that if you're not growing, you're dying, that change is a constant. And so how can we weather the changes in the market, consumer demand, whatever that looks like, technology, all of that? They catch that, they see that vision and see the big resources that are available to them with hundreds of partners and backing, with financially sound backing. So very unique approach for you.
I would say that it is not for everybody, but I always saw the best part about orthodontics was the ability to change people's lives, not just our patients, but the people we work with and the people that are coming into our profession with us. Phong and I have both been educators. We've both trained residents. And this system allows us to be able to continue changing lives in a greater and greater sphere. Whereas if listen, I'm old. You can tell by the hair. When you get older and you haven't been really motivated to change much in the way you do, you become irrelevant. And one thing Phong and I have not become is irrelevant. Smile Doctors has given us the opportunity to mentor young doctors on a daily basis, if not an hourly basis, as well as keeping our hands clinically active. That has been the most fun part of becoming mature in my profession.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, Jack, you were involved a little bit on OCA at a board level and kind of saw how that ran. I think a lot of people have pointed back to OCA, how it fell out of favor, how it didn't work out long term, and compared that and just have said, well, that's exactly how things are going to go now with the current OSO models. How do you see those two different?
To back up, I was on the board of directors for a long time, 9 or 10 years. OCA did the same thing that my private practice did, and that it grew beyond its ability to manage itself. I think that if you just look at the people that they had in, they weren't bad people, but they didn't bring in new, more talented, more skilled people that could grow the company to a bigger place. There were too many people that were in the same family that were running the same thing. I was most heartened by what Smile Doctors did when they had the leadership transition, and that they honored and recognized the founders in leadership, and then had the courage to bring in people who would stretch them, who could grow to the next level. Jay is an amazing CEO. Not that our other CEO wasn't wonderful, but each level of business takes different expertise. And I think a founding CEO is different than one who's going to take us to the next level. And that is where I see the biggest difference here, is that we are growing and maturing and bringing the talent in that we need to get to that next level.
Yeah, I would agree. I knew our first CEO, Scotty Hudsmith. I knew him very, very well, of course, working together for many, many years. And he always said his strength is in creating, growing things. And he told me from the beginning, the day's going to come where this is going to be bigger than me and bigger than where I can take it. And the company deserves somebody whose skill set is to go from here to here. And so that's when that shift was made, and it was one that had been in the works. Scotty had wanted to slow down, wanted to make that change, and as you say, I will attest, Jay Hedrick has been one of the greatest blessings to Smile Doctors ever. Just his leadership approach and how he's navigated. He came on just 2.5 months before COVID started. And so he's seen significant change over these last few years. And so he's helped us to come together really as an organization and weather these storms. I really appreciate his leadership.
Hey, Scott, I told this privately and publicly. As soon as we met him, I knew he was the one. It took us a week. He was making some decisions because we just came on board and we were having some hiccups. And it took him a couple of hours to figure it all out. And then we were on our way again. So I told him publicly, probably he's the one. Speaking about companies that like OCA that went under, we knew it right. How does a company go under? Just don't do those things. And Smile Doctors are definitely not doing those. All your kids were on top level positions, Scott, even though I love them, they're very talented. We can instantly tell that this is not the right place for us, okay? Yeah. But we hire top people for a reason, and that's right. We know it's going to be successful.
That's right. Nepotism it's a killer. It'll just kill things. Yeah, people get put in spots they're not qualified to lead, and it'll go downhill real quick.
Because they're your kids, yes.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. So there's that conflict, that bias.
Yeah.
You guys, speaking of partnerships and coming together, you guys have one of the most unique partnerships I've ever seen in orthodontics. It's always impressed me how you work together and how you see things very different, and yet really understand a delineation between your roles and your strengths. It's a beautiful thing. Phong, tell me, how did you arrive to join Jack in practice and some of your background?
So I graduated from LSU also in 2002, and right after I graduated, I knew I wanted to educate because I love educating young doctors. So I went to full-time practice for about 5 years. During that time, Katrina happened, and it was a mess here with job and security, and I had a young family, so I needed additional income. And at that time, Jack just practiced because Katrina didn't affect the facilities as much for him. So he was one of the few orthodontists that came back to work. So he was so busy, he needed some help. So originally I was going to be an associate, but after working together for a little while, he's like, "Phong, I have to make you partner." He was very gracious, and I told him that I promised him I'll be the best partner he ever had. Because a lot of people were telling him not to make me partner because he could make so much money for me, right? So
this was in the first 6 months, by the way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So I made him a promise that and I appreciate so remembers that I was going to make his half worth more than the total. I was going to help do anything I could to make his half worth totally more, and then be a great partner. And since that day, we still talk every day. It's been 20 years. We still talk every day, and being with Smile Doctors allowed us and me in our position now to even educate and influence even more doctors in our role as divisional doctors. So that's and I have to honestly say, being with Smile Doctors, I've become an even better orthodontist and a better leader. 100% that bar none, totally truth. I'm able to see different mechanics and see what will work and see what didn't work and explain why, and have real knowledge on the ground with doctors in different clinics. So I became a better leader and be a better doctor. I'm so grateful for Smile Doctors.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really unique. You get exposure to so many different ways to practice, what works in some markets, what doesn't work in other markets, and then be able to leverage that. And certainly the brain power coming together on the mechanic side of just the framework of treatment plan templates and how to take a case, a pretty standard class 2 deep bite, with overjet in a certain way. Like, how do you want to treat that mechanically, and then just go through some just a template of visits and sequence those out. It's really, really amazing to see.
Yeah, so Jack is still part-time. Jack still teaches at the dental school. And most of our doctors that come on board are doctors that he influenced all the doctors that came with us when we were DN are still with us now. So something we're really proud of. That's been 7 years. We all believe in the mission, and the mechanics and the treatment outcomes are outstanding. And we would put that against anybody in the country. So I know that's one of the knocks of having being in OSO, but that's not true of Smile Doctors. So that's the reason why we joined Smile Doctors. Orthodontic led, lead with a mission, and do great work to take care of people.
Okay. I agree. I think the autonomy piece is like, we want you to take the best care of patients possible. And we want you to do it in an efficient way that's as a benefit to the patient and a benefit to the organization. And straight up, that's it. And people scratch their heads. Well, how can this be? This is corporate. You guys are going to demand that I cut corners and do all this. And it's like, absolutely not. We'd be cutting ourselves off at the knee if we went that way, where we start to rip off the patient. We start to give them less than what we can, what we should. And so it's really staying true to who we are, who we've always been as orthodontists, as we come together in a group, just to raise the level of care and really take care of our people. Jack, you mentioned some of that about our people. Somehow this has been a benefit to your people and seeing them grow. Not only did the orthodontists who came on board when you joined 7 years ago, they're still on board. We get a lot of hits on that people are going to leave, that they're not going to like it, and all that. And while it isn't for everybody, I get it. But the vast majority stay. They're happy. They're growing. It's a benefit to them. Talk some about that, about your team and how they've grown as well.
Well, our team has grown. It has not shrunk, and our doctor group has grown. We've gotten more doctors here since we affiliated, and they have come in with the full knowledge of what's going on, because we had a large group. We had 5 doctors that were there before, and they're all very active in the residencies at LSU, and they have not told people not to join us. We've continued to bring people from that same residency on. The thing that I tell my young doctors is, if you work the same way in this group as you'd work if you were trying to build your own office, and you invested the same time and energy into that, you'll be way ahead of time here than you would be if you were trying to build something by yourself out on your own. And you will have the ability to raise a family, be home with your kids at night, keep your marriage, and have the financial security of a back office that is worked by professionals. And that has been true. All of our younger doctors live in houses that are way nicer than the house I grew up in, that I came out in for the first 20 years of being an orthodontist. All of them drive nice cars. All of them have successful families, and they're all the primary breadwinners of their families. And if I couldn't do that, I couldn't recruit the people that I teach and love to come with me.
In addition to our doctors, it allows our teams to have upward mobility, right? Whether they move because of spouses. So our team members now have job security, and they have upward mobility also. People like Christina, she's believe it or not, she started with us when she was in high school in sterilization. Super smart person, worked her way up, and now she's one of the leaders, managing probably over 100 locations. We would never be able to give her that upward mobility if it wasn't for Smile Doctor. So,
and that brings to a point of, almost every successful business, or businesses that want to be successful, say one of the things about getting big is best practices being shared. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that almost no big business I've been in effectively shares best practices. But Smile Doctors is different. And I think it's because of the upward mobility that the individual team members have, that Christina was really good at what she did for us. And now she's doing it for 200 or 300 offices.
Right. Yeah. She's one of 3 divisional operations people. And so, that's an amazing story. I forgot that she started with you in sterilization.
It's sterilization.
She's one of my favorite people, smart and so hardworking, and just relates with people.
Finance and economics degree. Yeah, she graduated finance and economic and accounting degree, right? So then, she's super smart, but then this gave her the opportunity. Well, one thing I do want to mention is when Jack and I joined Doctors, the same way when Jack and I joined each other, we were a true partnership. And I think when people go into Smile Doctors or whatever, and if they don't have that type of mindset, then things can go right. But because we're a partnership, and Smile Doctor view us as a partnership, that's how we grow. That's how Jack and I grew, and that's how DN and Smile Doctors continue to grow. It's a true partnership. It's a family. We care about each other, and we want each other to grow. And so that's how we feel, and that's why we're so successful.
But I'm gonna plug you, Scott, because you're one of the few leaders in a big company that doesn't want to constantly have his butt kissed. I mean, you actually call your leadership people out and ask for constructive feedback. Just the call we had last week. That takes courage. And there aren't many leaders who will sit and listen and then make changes. Yeah. And I have to say, if you look at what's happened over the last 7 years, the changes that we've grown together for a large company are absolutely amazing. It's almost unheard of.
Yeah, not once did I hear you say, I did this or this is because of me. Very humble, a lot of humility, and it shines throughout the whole organization.
Yeah, no, I won't. It is not because of me. I had a crazy idea, got a few people together who thought that it might work, and together we built this. That's really what it is. And,
because if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? It's not an easy road. I mean,
it's like sticking your head up out of the foxhole,
Sometimes it feels like that. Yeah, for sure. And
yes,
so you guys have talked a lot about advice on partnership, and your role currently in Smile Doctors is your divisional support doctors with a focus on these new and younger doctors to help train them up, give them mentorship, and really speed their learning curve in order to be amazing clinical and business operators. Give us a little taste, some of your best stuff. So at our doctor meeting, you guys have lectured, shared some pearls. You do it as well at LSU. Now's the time. I'd love for you to share with the audience just a few things that off the top of your head. What are some things, perhaps mechanics, perhaps partnership, relationships, all the stuff. I'll put you on the spot and ask for some advice.
So our passion is education and giving back to young doctors, right? That's why we both taught, and Jack is still teaching, right? But Smile has given us a platform to teach so many more doctors throughout the organization, several hundred doctors, So that's where our passion is, and we really appreciate the opportunity. A lot of it is just keeping it simple. Just imagine, and Charlie Munger say this correctly, right? Just figure out what the bad stuff is and don't do that. To figure out like what makes a patient mad and don't do that, or what makes a business, it won't be a good decision, and don't do that. And then just keep it real simple. Jack told me a pearl is, you don't want to have on parties and stuff, right? Like you don't want to stay too late. You want to make it early. You don't want to be in a position where anything bad can happen, and that's true.
Yeah. One of the things that I preach hard is leverage. If I'm going to straighten teeth all by myself, then I'll be able to probably see 25 to 30 people in a day if I'm lucky and if I'm working my butt off.
Right.
To me, the secret is developing good, simple systems that you duplicate routinely. The same problem gets treated the same way. That way I can have a team of people working underneath me that can predict what I'm going to be doing, have mechanics. There may be 50 ways to do something in orthodontics, but pick a way and do that every time, and your team will know what to do 95% of the time before you even sit down. My goal when I bought that first practice, that guy was going to the chair 3 different times at every appointment. And my goal was to see that patient one time during the appointment. And we did that. And probably the most landslide type change that Dr. Wynn and I came with together. I can't remember whose idea it was, but it came out of this brain trust, was to, instead of, because I had been through we were not saving money with consultants. We were using every consultant you can imagine, and everybody was pushing me to some type of doctor time schedule. And we just said, no, we're going to adapt our mechanics to an easy schedule. So we had the same length of time appointments for everything. I called it a block schedule. I don't know what the name of it is. And then we fit our mechanics with our treatment plans to fit that schedule. And now finding an appointment at the front desk is real easy because they're all the same. And that was one of the biggest revolutions we did. It also made it possible to do online scheduling if you want to do that, because now you don't have to search for 15 different appointments.
I know
Sure.
AI is a big topic now, but back then it was human AI. And that's why being in a relatively large practice really helped us, because we kept running through the iteration and we keep running through it. And the hiccups would show up immediate, right? Because you're doing it so many times. But then that allowed us to enhance and improve our mechanics to make things even more efficient. We started minimizing number of wire sequences and without affecting treatment outcome. So, at the time, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I think we were one of the larger practice when we joined Smile Doctors. I don't know, where everything's at now, but, we had like 12, 13 locations we were doing a decent amount of volume with five to seven doctors, including ourselves. So, but we ran through a lot of iterations and we kept improving. The human mind and the human ingenuity, cannot be discounted. You put a lot of smart people together and good things happen. That's how we feel with Smile Doctors. We have a lot of great doctors at Smile Doctors, whether it is, it's Invisalign, treatment mechanics, marketing. A lot of smart doctors know a lot of things. And when you put it all together, beautiful, magical things happen.
I'll share with you Fong's classic statement: faster, better, cheaper.
Sure.
Anything we instituted in our office had to be faster, better, and cheaper.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
for sure. I think too often doctors get off on this tangent of like, hey, I'm going to use this one product that's available to every orthodontist in the country to differentiate my practice. And and I'm gonna use this and be first to market and get out there, and it's gonna cost me a little bit more. I'll lose profit on the case. And as I see this out in the market, I'm like, oh boy, let's not go through this again. Please don't, because as soon as you get a little foothold, everybody around you is going to adopt it, and it's not innovative.
It's one machine is going to make a big difference. This one machine is going to change the practice.
Right. It's really we've heard that so many times, and haven't we at ortho meetings? Oh my goodness.
It's really simple. I boil it down to, this is one of the last lectures I give my residents. It's only 4 things: start your appointments on time, finish your appointments on time, and finish your treatment on time excellently, and do it all with a smile. If you do that, you're going to be a successful orthodontist.
Agreed. Totally agree. One of the things is we sat in many, we sat down in many rooms and discussed the future of Smile Doctors, the future of what do we need to do mechanically, how to solve problems, how to get widespread adoption of techniques that are proven, all of that. Fong, you have a very unique approach to problems. And would you mind sharing that of how you look at what's at the end and work backwards? Talk about that.
So this was and I think that's why Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett make great point. That's how Jack and I feel on the financially on a different level as orthodontists, right? You start with the end in mind. Figure out what you don't want it to be and figure out what you want it to be, and then just work backwards. What would make a case go horribly wrong, or bad bracket placement, inefficient mechanics, you can't leverage the staff, and don't do those things. Keep your mechanics the same, similar. Keep your wires on the good sequence. Don't, trust me, there are so many different options out there, and you don't need all those options. Keep everything simple. I'm glad we and I hope you as and Smile Doctors coined this, the the 3-wire sequence for our mechanics. You keep it simple: initial wire, medium wire, and then finishing wire. And Jack's a board certified orthodontist. He's our quality control, and if we aren't doing something that's board quality, he would know and call us out right away. But more isn't necessarily better. More is not the perfection. Is when you're taking everything away. That's when perfection really is. It's simple. You're taking all the extraneous stuff out, and then you're left with beauty. And that's what we try to do with our practice. If you look at it, it's very simple. It's very basic mechanics, but that's where the beauty is. The beauty is not adding on. The beauty is taking away.
Yep, I agree with you. I think the 3-wire sequence is something that we do encourage quite a bit, and we leave it up to the doctors. You choose the size of your initial wire.
Yeah.
You choose the size of your working wire and the finishing wire, and whatever works with your bracket type, your bracket slot, your arch form that you prefer. And so it just goes that way. It's just really how can we make this simple and predictable mechanics so that our teams can follow. That's really all it is. And once it fits in a schedule template, your labor model is correct. It's really, really simple to make it work and have it be profitable, and the outcomes are beautiful.
When you observe an orthodontic clinic that's working, you find out something, and that is doing doesn't take much time. It's deciding what to do that takes time. And I see people, they take too long to make decisions, and then they don't let the people underneath them make decisions because they make it unpredictable. In our flow, we try to make decisions the easiest way possible as soon as they can be possible, and then to get into the doing as soon as possible.
I think we're sort of we get bogged down to the what ifs. Well, what if I have this type of case, or what if I have this type of patient? Then address the one-off as one-off, but the majority, 80 to 9%, gotta be that straighten teeth and fix bite. That's all you're really doing. Straighten teeth and fix the bite. No matter how you look at it, you're still straightening teeth and fixing the bite. So figure that out and make that as efficient as you can, and then leave the one-off be one-off. SmileDoc has never said you can't use more wires or anything like that. You can't do certain type of, but leave the ones off being one-off, and then focus on the majority. And I think we're all going to be in
that. Almost every case starts the same. You're either going to scan for aligners or you're going to put brackets on. Now, there are a lot of cases that, I still teach at LSU. And so I'll bring cases to residency with me and get the opinion of other doctors. That doesn't mean I can't put brackets on their front teeth, because I got to start that way anyway. And so there's no reason to be inefficient with your time or your patient's time. They'll appreciate that you did something.
I agree. There's always going to be the one-off. There always will be, but you have to have a plan for the majority, the vast majority of the cases start out the same way. And that's likely a bracket on every tooth, an initial wire to begin level and derotate. And so that's the approach. But yes, orthodontists love to run to the exception and then point that, because if I can come up with 1 or 2 exceptions to the rule, well, maybe 4 or 5 out of 1,000 cases are going to fit this, and then cool, then it's no good, and let's throw it out. And too often, I believe orthodontists want something deep down in us wants to have to be called to the chair to be able to give the authority. Okay, we're going to do this today. We're going to do that today. We're going to do this, and everything kind of bottlenecks with the orthodontist. And in the end, it's the patient who suffers. And because man, after making hundreds of decisions a day, you get into decision fatigue, and you run late, and then you got to kick the can down the road, and you can't advance treatment the way you want, and so the patient suffers. But when there's a plan laid out, it's followed, it's appropriately scheduled, everything works so much better.
I'll put a little mechanics pearl for the non-spot doctors out there, but to get the rest of the playbook, you got to join SmileDoctors, of course. But Jack told me this, right? If you have an extraction case, okay, don't extract before you put the braces on. One, okay, it might turn out to be a non-extraction case. You just never know. But, once you straighten,
it happens.
Yeah. And if you do need to pull teeth later, you're a one that good with the patient. The teeth are going to be mobile, so they're a lot easier to remove. And then you remove the bracket off the teeth you want to extract in addition to the treatment prescription. Now there's no mistake on which teeth needs to get pulled because it's the one without the braces on. So there's nothing
right.
and you will find out in reality what the wrap effect actually is, the regional
Right.
accelerated phenomenon, because your spaces will close so much faster because of the bone activity that comes. And I've knock on some wood, I've never had a dry socket on a tooth that was orthodontically treated first because the healing cells have already migrated into that PDO.
And we never have broken root tips or anything along that line. So these are the things we get to help with the young doctors in small doctors, which is what we enjoy,
Yeah.
avoiding the pain and the hardship of orthodontics.
But going back to one of what you were asking earlier, what we offer our young doctors who are affiliating that we coach on is I tend to break it up into different places where almost universally my younger doctors have questions. One is, the new patient exam. Most of them spend way too much time in it because they talk people out of treatment. I coach them through making sure you educate your patient, but don't talk them out of treatment. 2, practice marketing. These young doctors, most of them have never been to lunch with a general dentist. They have no idea what should occur then. And you walk them through the scenarios and it's nothing that's scary or hard. Become a resource for them because you did spend more time in school, and they will, if you make yourself accessible, they will access you and become part of your practice in a way. 3, mechanics. Most of them had an instructor telling them what to do the whole time, and they never got to have their own system of mechanics. And I show them one that I know works, and then they can learn what they know and get into a system that works for them, but it's predictable and leverageable so that their team can follow through with it. And probably the last thing is how to get out of a case. You don't get out of a case at the last month. You get out of a case about mid-treatment because you start setting expectations at that point in time. And then you don't have people that go a year over treatment because they knew a year ago they were supposed to wear their rubber bands, or God bless you if you're still using headgear or things like that. But those are the things that we coach people that have been out of practice less than 5 years. And we find that makes the biggest impact on them. They are learning in 6 to 8 months what it took me 10 years to learn by accident.
Oh, when I heard your lecture summed up, so simple, just going pearl after pearl after pearl to all these new doctors at our Smile Doctors meeting, my jaw dropped because it was just so practical, so good, just made so much sense. And I thought, oh my goodness, this would have shaved years off of my learning curve, years, if I could have sat in here. And so to see what the impact that you guys are making on all these new doctors is just amazing. And you can see it in them. We have rock stars. That's who we want. We want them to come hungry, work hard while they're here, while they're at work, and then go home, be with your families, grow your young, beautiful family, and really take advantage of some of that time. I can speak very personally on this. I look back, I just had newborns 3 months ago. And so I got a herd of kids. I got a bunch. And I am cherishing this time with these newborns because early on in my practice and education career, I missed out on so much. I missed out on so much with my first kids because, I was busy building something and I was stressed and I was working. They say 9 to 5. It's really 5 to 9 at least. You're on your own. And I just wasn't around. I didn't see it. And I carried so much stress, so much burden to build something that I really missed out a lot on that. And I'm taking full advantage of these little ones that I have now, just to enjoy that time. And that's what I want for everybody. So yeah, it works out great. Have that level of mentorship, and you guys are amazing at what you do for so many of our doctors in your division.
Jack taught me, and that's what we try to relate. Kind of what you're talking about, spending time with your family. I have to put a plug out for the doctor region that works with us in the DN region. They are amazing, and we're trying to tell them kind of what you say. Work is great as family, but you still have a family at home too. So I mean, the doctor that we support locally, region here, they're all amazing. We all came on board. And speaking about mechanic, they helped us put that CS Spring lecture together, and it's probably one of the very very most watched videos at Smile Doctor, and it was all of them. So I can't say enough about all the doctors that work with us here also.
Yeah, and I can't see how this isn't the best life choice as to how to build your practice. After having done it one way and the other, I see my younger doctors were as productive and profitable at 2 years out as I was at 10 years out. And if they had, I'm not saying that I'm smart or stupid. I'm just saying that I had to learn everything kind of the hard knocks way, where if you're mentored into a successful system, you can be very profitable and productive at an earlier stage in your practice with way less headache.
And Scott, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you don't have to be you don't have to be the owner doctor coming in to own equity in Smile Doctor stocks, shares. So that that's a fallacy, right? Like all of our doctors have shares in Smile Doctors, and I want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. That as long as you're working with Smile Doctors and you're contributing, I think we're all owners, we're all partners, we're all in the same boat, and all our doctors have shares with Smile Doctors.
Yep. Right. I agree. And with the de novos that are starting up with a lot of these doctors who have joined as associates and they're doing de novos now, I think it's just amazing. Good for them. Good for them to make a lot of money, scratch that itch of the entrepreneurial bug that so many orthodontists have as they're growing their platform. So it's just a beautiful thing.
Beautiful.
Well, this has been awesome. You guys are amazing. I appreciate your examples as partners, how you communicate. It's been an amazing lesson to me, watching how you guys have operated together. And I've taken your differences and your strengths, and really I've applied it to my own life, especially at home in my marriage. So I want you to know the impact that you've made on me in that way, just to see my wife's strengths and what she does so well. That I didn't always see as an advantage to everything. And it's totally changed my perspective. You guys have been a huge influence on me personally in that way, as well as how to view all of our partners as unique, and with the perspectives they bring only make us stronger. And we get to approach problems with that trust that someone sees it differently. I trust them. I know them. Let me try and take it from their vantage point as we solve this problem, and it makes us all better for it. You guys are fantastic. Thank you for your impact. And so have a great day. Yeah.
I would be in trouble if I didn't say this, but because I'm a better educator, a better orthodontist, I am a better father at home now too, and a better spouse. So I do get to spend mental time with them. Not just the physical time, but thinking about them, taking care of them, and that's because of Smile Doctors. And because it wouldn't work any other way. And I'm a better partner to Jack because of Smile Doctors. So I totally appreciate it.
He's the bestest.
You guys are great. Thanks for joining us today.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott.
Take care.
Thanks. Yep.